Alrighty, good morning everyone. Thank you for bearing with me just then while I set up. Welcome to another stream of Lyrebird Edits. Good morning, Novelist Cream. You're the first out of the gate for my stream chat. How are you doing? Hope all is well. Hi, Solar Star-Lord. Good to see you again. Hope you've been well. Good. So, yeah, my phone's a bit weird this morning. I'm only getting an H signal as opposed to the 4G, so it just pops in and out every now and then. And the stream quality does this, so I thought I'd better switch over to my not so reliable home Wi-Fi, and we'll see how we go. Let me know if there's any up and down dips with the quality of the stream, and I can try a few other things. But right now it looks okay, so we'll see how we go. And no sooner do I say that, but I can see OBS just struggling hard, but we'll get there. So let me know if there's any particular disturbance in the stream. Morning, Justin Toons. Good morning, Cuddly Clementine. Yeah, I'm sorry to keep you guys waiting. I just wanted to make sure that I could try and get the best quality going before I started and stopped and started and stopped and all sorts of things. So thank you for bearing with me. It's a lot of work. That's the idea, and to take it from there. Good, good. That's the best thing that you can do, I think, is to get an idea out and down on a page. Then you can start to critique yourself. You can start to see where you need improvement, and go from there. That can be quite daunting too. In some aspects, you don't want to, you know, like you have the perception that you're going to break your work. It's too fragile. It needs to sort of stew for a bit longer. But I often find that just doing what you did is a really good way just to clear the air and to understand where your story can go from. So yeah. Wow. 122. Okay, that's totally understandable. And I totally don't mind with you popping and saying hi and going off to sleep. I'd do the same. Oh, cool. Nice. Let me know if the pulses do get a bit annoying, Novelist Crim. We've got some editing going on within the chat stream itself. Like an editing section. Okay, so look, without further ado, I've wasted enough time this morning. We're going to be looking at a story that comes as a vertical slice, in the author's own words. So I'll link you guys to the Reddit thread that I picked the story from, with permission, of course. And what we're going to be looking at today is chapter 20 from this story, which seems like a bit of a weird place to start, but I think it's actually quite interesting to dive straight in to a story and see whether or not we can, without any prior information, put ourselves in the mindset of where this story is coming from, who the characters are, how they're interacting with each other. Going midway into a story, or even close to the end of a story, and taking a sample of its writing is a really interesting idea, and it's not something I've actually done too much before, so I was keen to try this. Yep, so follow that link, you'll see the original post, the original author, who very kindly allowed me to edit this story. Thank you, PumpkinPieAddict. And note to you, what I'm doing here is I've copy-pasted your story from your original Google Docs into my own Google Docs, which I will now share. Not right now. Oh yeah, actually right now, it doesn't really matter. So... shareable link. Oh, I can do this at the end, whatever. But yeah, I'll send you a link to this document. I like to keep my edits separate from any other potential edits that people do, just to give you like a fresh perspective. I often find that when I see other people having edited stories already, I don't want my editing to be influenced by the previous comments, but I also think it's a bit overwhelming for the author themselves to have like 5 people on this side of a screen just chatting away about the story. So I'll separate my edits out, send you the link to this, and then we can go from there. Just for readability's sake, I'll just justify it to the right. Ah, nice. And I'll also zoom in. Ah, nice. Good, good. Destructive readers, by the way, guys, is a really interesting subreddit. If you are in the market for some high-quality critiques that tend to verge on the more critical side, like a really hard kind of critique slash edit. Sorry, they don't strictly do edits, but they'll give you good feedback. And the system they have going in the subreddit's pretty interesting. Also, sorry, I've just been ignoring the chat stream. Let me go back and have a read of what you guys are up to. Cool. Thanks for popping in, Clem. We'll catch you next stream. And hopefully it won't be 1:22 on the next time. It's 9 hours, wait, 12 hours time difference, so you'll be refreshed for the next stream. Anyway, catch you later. We all need to do better. Do these things I understand better. I can't choose between first or third person. That's a really interesting issue, Solar Star Lord, about first and third person. You don't describe something which way the character would. Yeah, I'll double down on what Justin Toons and novelist Krim are saying, and that's the third person can often be perceived as quite distant or emotionless, and I think that the best flavor of third person is when you do the opposite of what it sort of purports itself to be. If you inhabit the body of a character who's your narrator and you hug the protagonist as a third person narrator, you follow them around, you get into their head, you feel the details with them. It's like a weird blend of first and third, but you just stick with the third person style and the third person language choices. That is often the best type of narration. Like, it's like a third person intimate is what I think of it. But yeah, third person limited is pretty much the same thing. Yeah, definitely do that. Yeah, because as you just said, Soul Star, the first person does seem a bit cold if you don't do it in a way that allows the reader into the narrator's world and into the character's world. The language choice is quite tricky in that regard. I'm trying to think of a good book I could recommend where third person narration is used, but in a very intimate way. Maybe I can. One sec. So the book I'm reading right now is called Folk. It's got a really nice cover too. Folk. I think I've shown you guys this one on stream last time. Let me just see if I am... Oh, here we go, Folk. Horizontal. This is a great example of third person narration being used. In a way that's very intimate, because the narrator of this story is kind of like... They're not exactly a god character, but they're an all-seeing character within a story village. And their style of narration is very intimate with the characters. So yeah, I recommend this one, if for nothing else, just to look at how the narration is done. And also because the cover is awesome, and because the stories are good. So it's a win-win-win. Everybody wins. Yeah, of course, Solar Star Lord. Post it in the chat stream. just so other people can have a look at it. You have my permission. Actually, thank you for asking. That's very nice of you. Thank you. Oh yeah, you could also whisper it, but yeah, if you want to just put it in the oh. Yeah, if you want to stick it in the chat box, that's fine too. Up to you. And you're more than welcome. No worries. Let me check my stream. I'm dropping a fifth of all my frames. That's not good. It's better on my phone. Let me really. Okay, I should be back up now. Sorry for that. Looks like my phone's decided to behave, which is good. Okay, so for the purposes of restream and Twitch not liking disconnects, welcome back to Lyrebird Edits. For all intents and purposes, this will be the start of the stream. I don't know, whatever, I'll figure it out later. Long story short, we are going to be editing Pumpkin Pie Addict's The Grim Chronicles Dead Man Switch Chapter 20. Apologies for taking a little longer than usual this morning to start up the stream to get everything nice and smooth. But yes, we are back in business and not dropping a single frame. Nice. Nice. Hey Feodorov, welcome to the stream. Yeah, I don't know what these asterisks are for. Are you guys dropping some choice three-letter swears, or are you trying to put a link in? I'm not sure. What's going on there? It doesn't tell me on my chat window. Also, hey TTLSVC. Just before we start, I've got a link on my homepage for my Discord. Pop in there if you want. For some behind-the-scenes Lyrebird stuff, which is just me talking and everyone talking back, and lots of talking. So yeah, if that sounds like it's up your alley, then join the Discord. And I'll type in there during the stream as well, but also in the chat box. It's up to you whether you want to join. Okay, let's jump into the edit. And then, yes, good. Let me know if this is too small for you, if your eyesight's bad and you want it bigger. Cool. Ah, it's a link, gotcha. Yeah, actually, if you want to whisper something to me to then paste into the chat stream, that might work. I haven't got the time now to like selectively edit. I'll go through the moderation, but I think Solar Starlord wanted to paste a link to his work for people to read, which I'm A-okay with, especially because he asked before he did it. Wow, I just got 2 people joining the Discord, Big Dad and Fagelroth. Welcome to the Discord. Hey, it is worth plugging my Discord. Nice. Yeah. Also, Knuckles, hello, welcome to the stream. Lots of new people today, this is great. I do take requests. I do. Not music requests, which I don't think is what you're asking. I take story requests, definitely. If you want to send me something that you would like to have edited over stream, drop me an email. It's on my dashboard at the front, or you can join Discord and shout at me there until I respond at you. Yeah, more than happy to do that. Okay, this is a link to Solar Starlord's, Reddit. Yeah, nice. I have the power. I can paste links. So yeah, if you want to go and check his story out, please do. Did I get a second whisper? No, just 2 from Solar Starlord. Nice. Alrighty, guys, let's jump into the stream. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page, here is the link to the Destructive Readers subreddit where I found of a story. So have a look at it for yourself. You can read some of the little background information there, but the basic premise, I'm just reading out from the Reddit here, is that Grimm, who's the main character, has been brought back to work with the government as an agent. So a week prior, in an Arctic facility, a dozen scientists had been killed by a chemical agent, and at the same time, the facility was taken over by a terrorist who was threatening to use the gas on the general public. It's up to Grimm to do a simple recon and confirm that the chemical agent exists, and the scientists are indeed dead, and then return home and let the government agents take care of the rest. So that was his simple 24-hour job, and you can bet that that's not going to go exactly as planned. But what Grimm doesn't know is that there's no one coming to help him. He's going to be there for a lot longer than 24 hours. Now we are chapter 20 into it, so heads up, this is a vertical slice, but that will be really interesting in terms of how everything is going to play out. Alrighty. Let's start. Chapter 20, From Bad to Worse. The most dangerous thing that someone can do is put themselves out there, and that's why people lurk in the shadows. The moment I'm out there, they have a reason to hate me, and I have a target on my back. They have a reason to be terrified or inspired. People don't step out of a shadow to do what I'm doing. No one leaves the cave and looks at the light when all they've known is darkness. Grimm looked at Julia like she meant what she said, rolling out a blanket onto the floor. 7 guns, each polished and not a single scratch on them. Are you preparing for a war, a standoff against the government? Grimm asked. I'm preparing for anything I can. I need to go home. I need to escape and get away from all this. Now's not the time to be turning down help. If you need one of my guns, just take it, Julia said. I'll pass. On those. I've got this of my own, Grimm said, nodding to his pistol at his side. Grimm and Julia took some ammo from the cache. Julia loaded up each of her guns and then wrapped it back together into a small bundle and carried it under her arm. Grimm opened the door, and together they left the comforts of the small warehouse, entered the outside. I'm just going to read through this and I'll come back and pick up all the grammar stuff a bit later. Grimm could barely see a few feet in front of him, every so often wiping his goggles clean from the falling snow that had only picked up strength since he entered the warehouse. He pulled his goggles off to see a little more, but this caused him more problems than he needed, as the snow battered not only his face but his eyes at such a rapid pace. The pair walked forward for a few minutes, careful not to lose track of each other in the storm. Grimm followed Julia's red scarf amongst the snow. They walked past many trees, some making creaking sounds as though they were about to fall apart and join the dance of the snowfall. As they made their way past the small woods, Julia spotted a blinking red light a few feet above them, hovering. She pointed at it and yelled, but Grimm could barely hear her as the sounds of the trees and wind swept around them. Grimm looked at the blinking red light and saw the silhouette of a white helicopter almost perfectly blending into the sky above. The helicopter stopped in midair and descended lower and lower. From the sides, 1 rope fell out of the helicopter, and then another 2 followed by another. 4 men slid down, landing below to the surface. The guards spun around, but appeared to have the same visibility problems as Grimm and Murphy. The helicopter, however, ascended back into the air and charted a path towards the 2. Take cover now, Julia shouted, leaping to her side and behind a snowbank. Grimm heard Julia shout and watched her red scarf still waving behind the snowbank. Grimm turned around to take her advice and jump, but then noticed behind them a jet flying towards them. It opened gunfire a few years away and rapidly approached the 2. Grimm narrowly dodged out of the line of fire, watching the jet fly past them. The helicopter from the soldier's side also flew past them, making a loud sound, flying very low and slow. Grimm and Julia remained laying in the snow, masked under the trees, swaying more wild than before with the jet helicopter and the weather. The helicopter moved past Grimm and Julia. Grimm stood up and grabbed his soul pistol. You take care of the air power, I'll take care of the soldiers, Grimm shouted. He ran straight towards the guards whose backs were still turned towards the 2. Done, don't you die, and don't waste any of my bullets, or I'll put a couple through you, Julia shouted back, running the opposite direction, unknowing if Grimm heard. I'm going to stop there. And let's go back to the start, and we will start the edit. I was thinking about Lord of the Rings the other day, actually, Soul Star-Lord. Apparently, like, 1 in 160 New Zealanders were involved in that movie. Now, that sounds like it's a bit... I don't know if that's true or not, but the paper told it to me, so it must be true. Yeah, I want to watch Lord of the Rings again. It's been a huge while. Huge while. Also, hello Hannibal Grim. Sorry, I was completely ignoring you there. I was in my own world. I like your commentary as we're going through. I'm sorry to break your flow there, but I wanted to stop there and talk about just what had happened so far and suggest a couple of things that I think could be used to smooth out some of the text. So hang around, and then when we start reading again, I look forward to your commentary once more. Yes. So let us dive right in. When you start a chapter off with a big chunk of dialogue, this isn't bad by any stretch. Especially if the last end of the chapter ended with like a character walking in the room and opening their mouths, like to orate something. Bam, end of a chapter, chapter 20. They say something that can be quite an effective, like, it's not so much a cliffhanger, it's just like a sort of it's a dialogue break that can be used just for generating a bit of interest. However, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that wasn't the case. I'm going to guess that Julia appeared in front of Grimm, or they reunited, or something like that. That's just a guess. Regardless, starting off a chapter with a big chunk of dialogue without the reader knowing who's speaking is a bit of a gamble. And it's a gamble that doesn't really have much of a payoff. If you win and the reader guesses correctly who reads, or who has been speaking that, it doesn't really add anything to the story. A really simple fix for this, and to get rid of that gamble, because on the flip side of the gamble, your reader can be entirely confused as to who is speaking to who. So, what I'd suggest adding here, hey, add a paragraph, is to add a little sliver of grounding dialogue that, add a little sliver of grounding dialogue so we know who is about to speak. Slash, who the actors are. This will help the reader adjust the new chapter's scene without making them have to guess. So for example, this kind of grounding sentence here might be something like, and this is a suggestion, just something that's coming off the top of my head, but something like that. Like, this isn't a great example of how to kick off a chapter. I'm gonna edit here. So this is what I mean by grounding. If you're familiar with the stream, you'll often hear me talk about grounding, and it's the idea that you have to make sure that your reader understands where things are and where characters are in relation to each other. If we're just dropped into if we're just dropped into a story without any sort of grounding, without any expectation as to where we are, who the characters are, it's difficult for us to make that assessment right off the bat. Regardless of the fact that we're being dropped into the story from the outside, writing does still need this smoothing element. It's like the pitch between the bricks. It keeps everything together. It keeps us from losing track of where things are. This isn't, like, my suggestion here isn't a particularly great way to start a chapter, but what it does, and I don't know what should go in here instead, that's up for PumpkinPieAddict to determine, but I just sort of threw in the idea that they're in a warehouse, so Julia kneeled on the warehouse floor and unrolled the Hessian pack, which is her cache. We'll probably know that from the last chapter. Grim joined her and waited. Julia paused, keeping her hand on a cache, and began. The most dangerous thing that someone can do is this. So this is like a little example of how to ease in dialogue into a scene. The most dangerous thing that someone can do is put themselves out there. That's why people lurk in the shadows. The moment I'm out there, they have a reason to hate me, and I have a target on my back. They have a reason to be terrified or inspired. People don't step out of the shadows to do what I'm doing. No one leaves the cave and looks at the light when all they've known is darkness. So this thing here is quite poetic. However, it's a repetition. The idea that started off the dialogue tree. My suggestion would be either to just cut the first part and say that. This section here. Maybe consider cutting the first part of dialogue and just keeping this. What you do, however, run the risk of is making it sound like she's a sage or an oracle. This is quite... it's not stilted dialogue, it's just a bit unnatural. People don't usually try and orate wisdom like this, unless they're me, Lyrebird Edits, hello, orating wisdom. It does sound a bit poetic, and I think maybe that fits the character, maybe it doesn't. Difficult to tell from chapter 20. But having a think about how the words sound as they're coming out of your character's minds is interesting too. So specifically, this is the part that is repeated. Good. Let me just go back and read some of the chat, sorry. Yes, Justin Toons, feel free to go off and do some chores. Like, I don't have like complete control over what you guys do. I wouldn't mind that, but yeah, like I don't mind if you need to go off and do other things. That's for sure. You're entitled to live your life. Yeah, those shiny guns. We'll get to those shiny guns soon, Hannibal Grimm. Yes, we'll catch you later, Justin Toons. Except once you head off. Oh, actually, I was wondering where you came from, Novelist Grimm. So thank you, Justin Toons, for bringing Novelist Grimm along. Cool. The power of the word of mouth. Yeah. Ah, thank you. It's just me pretending to be smart though, novelist Crim. Like I just project an awful lot. Like I say I'm doing a PhD, but I mean, am I really? Do I have any proof that I do it? No. I mean, I could be lying through my teeth. Um, and also it's in an unrelated field, so that doesn't really count, does it? Anyway, thank you for saying that you like my voice. Um, Something that was interesting was in the last couple of streams, I've been showing my writing off, which has been a lot of fun. It's made me realize like the limitations that I have as an editor too, which is important, I think. That we don't have sole objectivity over our own words, and so even if it sounds like I'm really smart, um, or that I know what I'm talking about, I think oftentimes it's just I don't know. Is it confidence? Like I'm not trying to be falsely modest or anything. It's just that I guess when you're editing other people's stories, you have a nice sense of yeah. It's that clear cut differentiation between your own writing that's difficult to edit because you're so close to it, and working with another person's writing because you're distant from it. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I'm just a bit thrown off with the compliments. Thank you for the compliments. Yeah, cool. It's nice that the Twitch writing community is really friendly and people just like hanging out. So yeah, thank you for hanging out, Hannibal Grimm. Hmm. Good question, Katarina Hopes. Not unpleasant. Everyone is banned. Every comment needs to go to the council for approval, and they will deliberate in the shadows with like those evil wax candles lighting their faces, and everyone's wearing black cloaks. Yes, and everyone's got like really wizened ancient skin, and they all talk like, "Shall we let this come true?" And they'll, yeah, I could just imagine that. In other words, pretty terrifying. Katerina hopes, pretty terrifying. So I like the egalitarian nature of my comment section instead. Yes. Why not grey cloaks? Yeah, well, if you want grey cloaks, I'll consider it. Yeah, as long as it's not too white. You know, you have to be kind of evil if you're gonna do the whole Shadow Council thing. I was like, clicked unfollow. I think the voice is essential, Hannibal Grimm. Yeah. Because, I mean, what's the point of having an evil council if you're not going to sound evil, right? No, unfortunately, I turned all the little songs off. They spooked me too much when people followed. I used to actually like visibly start and go like, "Oh, what the hell's that? Oh, someone's following me." So now it's all silent. Bring forth the scrolls of moderation. Oh, that's great. Ah, that's wonderful. Yeah, true. It's a good opportunity. Anyway, I shouldn't get sidetracked. Let me get back onto this. The most dangerous thing that someone can do is to put themselves out there. That's why people lurk in the shadows. This is actually probably more of a more down to earth. Maybe consider cutting this part of a dialogue and just keeping what you had. What you had sounds more natural, I think. Okay, so then after this you have this is something that you'll have to put in yourself. Julie finishes unrolling the cache. 7 guns, each polished and not a single scratch on them. Are you preparing for a war, a standoff against the government? Grimm asked. I'm preparing for anything I can. I need to go home. I need to escape and get away from all this. Now's not the time to be turning down help. Stop. You need one of my guns, just take it. You don't need this tag, Julia said, because we've already got Grimm asked here, so there are only 2 characters here. Sometimes you just don't need to go, this person said, that person said, this person said, that person said. You can just do one, and your reader will fill in the other dialogue tag, unless you want Julia to have a bit more emotion in how she's speaking. So, for instance, if you want to keep the dialogue tag and add some emotion, try something like. There you go. So this is a much more effective dialogue tag than just Julia said. The balance between using dialogue tags and not, it's just a personal preference thing. It's up to you whether or not you want to. Excuse me. It's whether or not whether you want to continue the dialogue tag back and forth. But I like this some sort of emotional tag in addition to the dialogue tag. I think these are much more useful than just Grim asked, Julia said. I'll pass on those. I got this far with my own. Oh, so I'll pass on those. I know what you're trying to go for here. It's like, I'll pass on those. You could replace this with a hyphen, and it would work just as well. The comma is fine. Yep, let's keep the comma in there. I got a style of my own, Grim said, comma, nodding to his pistol at his side. So you can get rid of Grim said, because then we have 3 dialogue tags here. Grim nods to his pistol at his side. Now, yeah, it's crazy novelist Grim. Like I thought I'd get used to it, because I used to have like the Streamlabs opacity thing wasn't working very well for me, so I had this white box in the corner of my old streams, and whenever someone followed, a prince from Katamari used to come up and spin around, and it would make a noise. And yeah, it's terrifying. Nice. Oh, maybe you got a budding career in voice acting. Very good. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like the Mufasa laugh from The Lion King. That's such a wonderful laugh. Yeah. So evil. I love it. Anyway, so now from this point here, I noticed something. I wonder if you did too when we read it out. I might give you guys a moment to just read through this silently and tell me what you think. Or you don't have to tell me. You can just tell yourself in your head. So just give you a second. Okay, time's up. Oh, too much. Okay, so if you definitely haven't noticed it now, it's yeah. Every sentence in this paragraph, with the exception of this one, starts with a pronoun. There, done. This is the start of every sentence with the exception of that one. But there you go. So I'm going to color this in blue. I don't know if this is, I guess because coming into the back end of the story, I'm not sure how often this happens within the story structure already. It's usually not a good idea to repeat he, she, she, they, grim. if you start off your sentences in exactly the same way in every sentence, same start, um, what it does is um, it creates a similar kind of cadence and expectation for the story. What I mean by that is that the structure of all the sentences will be very similar. That means the flow between sentences, how all the ideas in this paragraph gel together, will be very uniform. I recently read a story in which the author did this, I think on purpose. And even when it's done on purpose, it still grinds a bit because it's very noticeable when you pair a paragraph like this against another one. It feels a bit sluggish, a bit slow. And so then you have to think of, okay, well, I can go in and rephrase all the sentences like this. So here we got Grim and Julia took some ammo from the cache. So you could rephrase this sentence with the ammo gleamed invitingly in the low light of the warehouse. Julia and Grim reached down to take some. With each of their guns loaded and wrapped back together, Julia wraps up a bundle and carries it under her arm. Together, the two open the door into the outside world and head for the wild, abandoned. Visibility was almost nil. Grim could barely see a few feet in front of him. Snow pelted his vision. He could barely see, the fingers at the end of his hand. Pulling off his goggles, he made a little improvement to his vision, but the snow battered his face with a great pace. I don't know, something like that. After a few minutes, the pair could barely keep track of each other in the storm. The only thing that was marking them was Julia's red scarf. On their way, they passed many trees. So, all I'm doing here is taking information within the sentence and front-ending it. It creates a much smoother reading experience, but you'll also notice that in my verbal vomit then, I still began some sentences with pronouns. I'm not suggesting here that you should get rid of pronouns at the start of every sentence, because the opposite effect occurs. If you have a paragraph that's just all fluid motion, it's too runny. Sometimes a really nice sentence can just be, Grim and Julia do this. Totally fine. The problem is when it's just over and over and over again within the whole architecture of the paragraph. So I'm going to go through and type down what I was thinking about then in this paragraph here, just to give some examples of how we can improve the writing. So Grim and Julia took some ammo from the cache. Let me get rid of... I'll take off all the highlighters here. That's not necessary anymore. Oh. Yeah, here we go. Voice course, Hannibal Grimm. That sounds fun. Go for it, I say. Go for it. Yep, exactly. Canarina hopes. Need some variation in sentence structure. Instead of always being subject, verb, etc., throwing in some clauses at the beginning of sentences, and varying sentence length will help. Nice. And we're in lockstep there. You and I together. Very nice. Yeah, it's good to notice the cadence. Yeah, look, it's just something that you pick up when you read through other people's stories. You have like a um maybe in the same way that when you read, you follow the pulse of the story. When I'm editing other people's stories, I like to keep my finger on how it's all coming along, how it's all flowing together. Yeah. Because I think that informs the quality of the writing rather than the strict word choices. It's how it makes you feel and how it flows together. So still Grim thought it best to stock up, never say no to a free meal, right? Suggestion, like if you don't like the narrator coming in with their own little emotional tidbit, get rid of it. But this is sort of like this, it's a way that you can convey the same information. Grim and Julia pick up some ammo. Fine, but it's a bit sort of stock description. Grim thought it best to stock up, never say no to a free meal, right? Um, Something like that. Cleaning out a quarter of the cache. Whatever. Taking special care to... Julia then wrapped it back... the tarp, I don't know, the Hessian bag, whatever. Wrapped the roll back together and carried it under her arm. Fine. Now, Grim opened the door and together they left the comforts of a small warehouse, entered the outside. We'll get rid of enter the outside, that's a bit of a grammatical mistake there. I'll undo that suggestion. So Grim's not at the door currently, we need to sort of make him go to the door. Grim opened the door and together they left the comforts of a small warehouse. Grim moved to open the door and together they left the comforts of a small warehouse. Outside, a blizzard raged. Okay, so I'm going to suggest a break in paragraph here because this is quite dense and we've still got another long way to go. So, kicks the door and watches it fly off its hinges. That's a great suggestion. Yeah, I agree, novelist Krim. It's in response to reading your work out loud. In addition to picking up really odd turns of phrases, if it's hard to say out loud, it's hard to read. It informs you also of how your work is flowing together. Oh, being screenwriting, that's very cool. Nice. Must feel like doesn't call and opt out. Nice. Random course time. That's where I did my English minor, actually. Random course time, yeah. You can make it into something useful. Because I did science for my undergrad, and I'm still doing science. So I chose my random subjects to be English. And often those are the really fun subjects that you just get to unwind a bit and not have to worry too much about it. Cool, cool. Let's jump back into here and suggest some more. Every so often wiping his goggles, cleaning from the falling snow that he only picked up since he went into the warehouse. You can get rid of that now. We need an understanding of where they're heading. Because even though your readers will know, being 20 chapters deep, even though your readers will understand where your characters are headed and why, it's good just to sort of refresh us. With some little reminders. Sometimes they can be as simple as short declarative statements. E.g. Something like that. Like, it's a bit cliche and it's a bit corny, but what it does is it reminds this structure above, pardon corniness, helps to reinforce character motive and direction. It's a simple trick. You don't do this too often, but because we're at the start of a chapter here, it's just nice for a reader to be like, "Yeah, that's right. He's going to kill Gorbachev, the Russian dude, who, or I don't know, something sort of Cold War era spy-esque." Something like that. So. Especially because we're about to enter an action scene, it's important that your reader doesn't lose sight of why your character is heading into that action scene to begin with. This really helps to reinforce that, I think. Oh, thank you for saying so. Cannibal Grim. I think it is a bit corny, but it's effective, right? Like, you can be corny and effective. And I guess there are only so many sort of like action tropes that you can rely on before you just have to sort of go with it. Yeah. Mhm. Effective corn. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. If you're gonna write corniness, which is totally fine by the way. As long as it's effective, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if, and that's why movies right now, even though they're very corny and they rely a lot on tropes and anything like that, the reason why they're still successful is because they're still good. You don't need blinding originality to be good. You just need to be effective. Because sometimes blinding originality can be stifling in how ineffective it is. So yeah, be effective is the take home here. That's the effect I was going for, Hannibal Grimm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, recent films. We could talk a lot about that. But I don't want to get distracted. I'm tempted to talk about that, but let's head back into the edit. He pulled off his goggles. He pulled his goggles off to see a little more, but this caused him more problems than he needed, as the snow battered not only his face but his eyes at such a rapid pace. This is quite a long and elaborate way of saying he pulled his goggles off, but the snow cut into his eyes. So if we use this, no blizzard was going to stop Grimm from X, Y, Z. We could follow it on with something like lit up. Grimm pulled his goggles off for a better look. The ice cut into. You can just say cut deep. Just say googles. Goggles. Grimm pulled his goggles off for a better look, but the ice would been cut deep. Versus, he pulled his goggles off to see a little more, but this caused him more problems than he needed as the snow battered not only his face but his eyes at such a rapid pace. Sometimes less is more. And sometimes less is less. But in this case, less is, I think, a bit stronger. Grimm pulled his goggles off for a better look, but the ice wind cut deep. We don't need to know what it cuts. It cuts his face, it cuts his eyes, it cuts his nose. It doesn't matter. It's an all-encompassing general description. Your readers will fill in the gaps. Tie it in with thinking about Julia. So the reason why I added this sentence here was because it was a bit abrupt that he takes off his goggles. It hurts. And then they just walk on. So in this example here, I added this little sentence just to ease the flow back into the fact that there are two people together. Your hard day's labour, Justin Toons. I hope it's come to an end, and I like to imagine that I'm the... What image am I going for? I was thinking of like of a hearth, and I am the fire, and you are the thing that curls up in front of the hearth and falls asleep. I don't know what I was going for, but no, I do actually. It's this again. It's this book. I'm not paid to promote this book, by the way. I really like the cover. That was one of the plot points in this book. Anyway, I swear I'm not paid to promote anything, but this book had a thing about hearths in it, and I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna be really clever and try and use a hearth metaphor, and it didn't work. I'm so sorry. I apologize on behalf of Zoe Gilbert, author of Folk, available now from all bookstores. Such a nice cover. It is a fancy cover, isn't it? It's one of the best I've seen in ages. Not sponsored. That's right. It's all independent. All independent. Give me money. Just whisper it to me. No one needs to know. I'll plug anything. Okay, so the pair walked forward for a few minutes, careful not to lose track of each other in the storm. Fine. Grim followed Julie's red scarf against the snow. There are two functional sentences here, and the nice thing about functional sentences is that they allow you to be not functional after a little while. Oftentimes it's good to pair them. So sometimes you can start off with a bit more of a free-flowing sentence and work it in with a solid grounding of what you were talking about. And other times it's nice to do it in the reverse. The pair walked forward for a few minutes, careful not to lose track of each other in the storm. Grim followed Julia's red scarf against the snow is a perfect opportunity for you to personify the red scarf. And you can even just put Julia's red scarf . Hey! Julia's red scarf danced like a cut blood stream against the snow, a good marker, maybe a little too good. I didn't personify this too much, but what I did was I turned the object into a bit more of a rather than just Grim's following Julia because she wears a red scarf. Here it's Julia's scarf is crazy, and it's really good to follow, maybe a little too good. This probably a good time to mention that this would be a giant target for any potential baddies. They walked past many trees, some making creaking sounds as though they were about to fall apart and join the dance of the snowfall. This is, I think, my favourite piece of writing so far. Join the dance of snowfall is wonderful. They walked past many trees I'm not so keen on. The colour danced between the sticks. I assume they're in a facility or in the grounds of it. Don't know. This is a placeholder. You can fix it up a bit later. PumpkinPieAddict. I mean, full stop. And then you put some made creaking sounds as though they were about to fall and join the dance of the snowfall. They made their way past the small woods. Julie spotted a blinking red light a few feet above them, hovering. She pointed at it and yelled, but Grim could barely hear her as the sounds of the trees and wind swept around them. So this is quite... this is a bit of a shift, isn't it? We've already got quite a bit of description behind us up here. Why don't we cut this into a new paragraph? Like so. This is quite important, right? Julia spots a blinking red light. I want to rework this a little bit. Sharp. Oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. We've done a couple of things here that make this scene sharper. It's improved the pace and flow, and it's made it exciting. So originally what it was this. Let me bring it up. I'll read it out again, just for what it used to be. The pair walked forward for a few minutes, careful not to lose track of each other in the storm. Grim followed Julia's red scarf amongst the snow. They walked past many trees, some making creaking sounds as though they were about to fall apart, enjoying the dance of the snowfall. As they made their way past the small woods, Julia spotted a blinking red light a few feet above them hovering. Full stop. She pointed at it and yelled, but Grim could barely hear her as the sounds of the trees and wind swept around them. Grim looked at the blinking red light and saw the silhouette of a white helicopter, almost perfectly blending into the sky above. All one paragraph. Now the problem with that paragraph wasn't so much what was happening, but the pace at which it was happening and the level of excitement that the narrator was imparting on you as a reader. Let's read out the suggested structure that I put here. So the pair walked for a few minutes, careful not to lose track of each other in the storm. Julia's red scarf danced like a cut blood stream against the snow, a good marker, maybe a little too good. The colour danced between the sticks and stalks of the facility's wispy trees. Grim heard their cry. Some made creaking sounds as though they were about to fall apart and join the dance of a snowfall. A noise then, sharp, sudden. The red scarf stops and falls silent. Grim braces. Julia raises her hand, slow, and points up to a blinking red light. Tiny like a new star but hovering dangerously low. Tiny like a new star but hovering dangerously low. No sound, at least nothing that cut across the scream of the trees and wind. Grim focused on the blinking red light and saw the silhouette take shape. A white helicopter almost perfectly blending into the sky above. This is a run-on into a new paragraph. And this is also a new paragraph too. So what I've done here is I've made one paragraph's end detail into 1, 2, 3 new paragraphs. 2 of those are one sentence, oh sorry, this is a one sentence paragraph. This is a short, snappy, tiny sentence paragraph. Doing this escalates the tension, makes it believable, makes it engaging for the reader in a way that just having it as a paragraph's log of description doesn't do. This is why it's really important to, I think, pay attention to focusing on what kind of response you want to draw out from your reader. Because if your paragraph isn't exciting to read, it's not exciting to imagine. So, in its weird way, playing with the structure of paragraphs can really make the difference between whether or not your story is tense, if it has good tension between what's about to take place and what's just happened. And the only way that you can know for certain is if you get someone else to read it for you and to go, oh, this part was really exciting, or yeah, so they're walking through a forest, there's a helicopter, and then this happens. That sort of response is, I think, first and foremost, a structural thing. You can have a really exciting plot synopsis for a story, but the actual experience of reading it, of being in the moment as things happen in your story, is so much more important than what really happens. Because what, like the blow-by-blow details of the story, I mean, this could be a helicopter, it could be a drone, it could be like the point of a satellite or something about to fire a laser down on them, like GoldenEye. Good movie. Actually, quite a long movie. Not as good as we remember it to be. It's long, it's like 2.5 hours or something. Anyway, Yeah, structure. Pay attention. Make sure that it's it's interesting and exciting for the reader. That's the biggest thing that I'm going to suggest here. Lyrebird suggestions. Weapon of Justice. I'm reading through the comments here. You, wow, there's some really good suggestions for what you could do with lots of books. I like Weapon of Justice the best. The buy enough and it can stop a bullet is particularly funny too. I love that. I love this. Ah, very wise. Um, it's like that saying, teach a man to fish. Oh, no. Give a man a fish and he'll be hungry later that day. Teach a man to fish and blah blah blah. It's like that structure too. I'm sure we could work out something with like buying a stupid amount of books and protecting yourself with it. And hence just always buying more books. Distant tunes, do you mean in terms of this? This hints at the fact that visibility in a snowstorm can be like a double-edged sword, I guess. Given the context of the story and what happens next, I had a feeling that they were trying to be a bit covert about their movements. So it's great that Grimm can follow her, but maybe a little too good. Implies that there are people who shouldn't be seeing her but are seeing her because the marker is really good, which probably explains why the helicopter finds them. So that maybe a little too good is like a really classic kind of action movie trope where it's like you're powerful, maybe a little too powerful, that sort of thing. Like it's the double-edged sword. Yeah. Buy more books and you'll become invincible, and maybe invisible too. Cool. Yeah, glad it makes sense. Hope they got the message through there. I'm gonna start from here again. Just give me a couple of minutes. I'll take a little break. Sit tight. I'll be back in like 3 or 4 minutes, okay? Alrighty, I'm back. Yeah, yes, novelist Krim. I felt you coming back. I'm like, oh, I gotta go quickly before he comes back. Perfect timing, just as planned. I took the LACC's sort of neat, and like the NEET kind of plan there, which is true. Like, you know, if you read books all day, no one knows what you're doing. I'd say Twitch constitutes a fairly active and healthy social life. You know, we spend a couple of hours together every week. Sometimes I see you guys more than I see my girlfriend. That's concerning. No, I see her more. Do I? Oh, I'm having a bit of an existential crisis right now. I don't know what to make of that. She does live quite far away from me, but then again, you guys are very far away from me, so I can't use that as an excuse, can I? Yep, I'm just a shut-in too, basically. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's something nice about the Twitch community. And also the Discord community as well, which you're more than welcome to be a part of. If you go in and click on the link on my dashboard, you too can be part of a very active and engaging community. It's just a nice way to keep in touch during the week, actually. I mean, we've had a couple of really nice discussions about like what constitutes good editing, and it's sort of like a nice place to flesh out some of the questions that get asked in the chat box here, but we never really have time to dig into. So yeah, if you have anything that you know, any particular questions, like what Saul Starler was saying about first or third person and how that can be used to different effect, Discord would be a really good place to flesh that out and talk about it. So yeah, I don't mind doing it here as well. It's just that we have a bit of less time, and yeah. So feel free to do it either way. Yeah, I should actually TTLICC. Although in some ways I think that would make me depressed. Not that my fellow Twitch people here isn't quality engagement. It's just making me think about how much time I actually spend with people, and like what priorities should be. Yeah. Anyway, let's get away from that thought. So if you just joined us, or if you've got very short-term amnesia, we are editing Grim Chronicles, Dead Man's Switch. Now this is chapter 20 from a story written by PumpkinPieAddict. Please head on over to the subreddit where I picked up the story from with permission, and yes, you could read the story for yourself. It's all there. You too could add some comments to the original document. I'll just reiterate that this is a separate document. So PumpkinPieAddict, I will send you a link to this once we're done. You can have a look at the comments in your own leisure time. Good. Okay, let's dive back in. The helicopter stopped in mid-air and it descended lower and lower. From the sides, one rope fell out of the helicopter, and then another two, followed by another, four slid down, landing on the surface, laying below to the surface. The guards spun around, but appeared to have the same visibility problems as Grimm and Murphy. The helicopter, however, ascended back into the air and charted a path towards the two. So what's happening here is there's a bit of a focalization problem. No, not localization, focalization. F-O-C-A-L-I-S-A-T-O. That's Google. You know I'm an English language, like UK language person. No, it's not a Z. Am I not spelling focalization right? Lord help me, what am I doing wrong? No, I'm not wrong. Google just doesn't know the word. Can I add it? Yes. Yes, I can add it to my dictionary. I didn't know you could do that in Google Chrome. Cool. Focalization problem. So far we've the narrator. It's not really a problem. It's just it's a note. So far the narrator has been fairly close to the perceptions and senses of Grimm in particular. So Grimm is the main character. He's the focal point at which we enter the story through. Now, why is that an issue here? It's because of this. The guards spun around but appeared to have the same visibility problems as Grimm and Murphy. This begs the question of if Grimm and Murphy... I assume Murphy is the surname of Julia. So if Grimm and Julia can see them, why can't they see Grimm and Julia? Visibility doesn't work in a... Oh, well, I mean, there could be tricks of light and things like that, or they could just have really low perception, and there could be all sorts of reasons why this is the case, but I'm not sure if it's believable right now in terms of its double standard in terms of the storm and its visibility issues. So that's issue 1, but issue 2, which is actually the focalization problem, is that the camera of the story has now left Grimm and Julia, and it's kind of like when you're in a video game and a cutscene happens and the camera goes whoop, and the other side of the room, like some minions, like appear behind, not the yellow minions. I'm thinking like goblin minions, when like a bookcase slides open and they go, hey, we're evil and we're gonna come out and attack the main characters, and they come out of the bookcase and the camera goes back to you as the main character, and it's like, you gotta fight those guys now. So it's one of those issues where this happens in stories too. The focal point has changed. This isn't strictly bad, it's just when it happens, it kind of comes out of nowhere and it rips you out of a story a little bit. Here we get a description of events happening at... So by that I mean the camera breaks its focus on Grimm. So if we were to keep the focus consistent, Grimm would have to inform the details of this paragraph. And that looks like this. Grimm watched as the 4 guards, goons, whatever, descended from their... Grimm watched as the 4 goons descended from their ropes and made formation on the snow. Blind, it seems, they staggered about, searching for prey. This is Grimm's impression. Grimm grabs Julia and pulls her to invisible safety behind a snowbank. Now, this breaks tense, sorry. So we have to keep it past tense. Right. Excuse my tense breaking there, but the point about this is... it's probably better to keep consistency between the focal point of like where it's hovering over your character, but it's not to say that you can't break the focal point. sometimes it's good to do like the goblin cutscene thing, but other times it's just better. I think most cases to keep that focus consistent in the main character. Hey, friendly minion. Nice. See, that's a good use of the word minion and what a minion can do for you. If you nicknamed your friend Minion because it was like the DreamWorks minions, that would be a bit soul crushing for your friend. I would feel very strongly. I would empathize very strongly with your friend. But yeah, see, this is what a minion should be. Everyone should just think of minions as like the classic goon style helper. I mean, everything would be fine. There would be no conflict ever, and we could all forget about those horrible yellow Tic Tacs. Ugh. If you haven't caught on, I really don't like minions. But I have a minion cup. I love that cup because it makes me feel bad every time I see it. So if you tune back for other streams, you'll probably see me drinking from that cup. I really hate minions, and I love to hate them too. I'll admit there's something fun about hating them. Anyway, remember that he was from spider monkeys. That's great. TTLACC, I'm going to ignore you said that. I'm going to put you in timeout. Can I put you in timeout? I can. But, I think it's a little too long for my taste. So this is an emotional timeout from me to you, TTLACC. No, stop it. Minion Leah from the Sword of Shannara. Minion. That's not a bad name, actually. There's also filet mignon. M-I-G-N-O-N. Filet mignon. Oh, that looks really good. Anyway, yeah, like a style of beef. Alright, so yeah, this needs to just sort of be reworked from the perspective of Grim. Take cover now, Julia shouted, leaping to her side and behind a snowbank. So the snowbank thing is in the comment too. Grim heard Julia shout and watched her red scarf still waving behind the snowbank. Grim turned around to take her advice and jump, but then noticed behind them a jet flying towards them. So this is one sentence, and it introduces about 4 separate ideas. Grim hears Julia shout. She watches her going behind the snowbank. Grim turns around to jump, but oh, there's a jet. So there are 4 things here going on in one sentence, which is, for a regular sentence, too much, but this is interesting, the jet flying towards them. That is the prime driver of what's about to come in this paragraph here. It opened gun for a few years away. I think that's hyperbole, and not a typo. And rapidly approached for 2. Grim narrowly dodged out of line of fire, watching a jet fly past them. The helicopter from the soldier's side also flew past them, making a loud sound, flying very low and slow. Grim and Julia remained laying on the snow, masked under the trees, swaying more wild than before with the jet, helicopter, and the weather. This implies that Grim and Julia are laying on the snow, swaying, the helicopter makes Grim stop and grabbed his soul pistol. Okay, so the point of this paragraph here is that shit kind of hits the fan in this paragraph. Everything's starting to go wrong for Grim and Julia. It should be tense, it should be exciting, a little chaotic, but it's a bit unclear right now where the readers should place their emotional baggage, right? There's a jet flying towards them. Where did this jet come from? So this is a key idea in the paragraph, but it's introduced as a footnote at the end of a very long sentence. Instead, perhaps consider getting Grim to feel the jet vibrations first, then see the jet, then duck for cover. Then describe fear, the adrenaline, and Julia's plan of action. I could rewrite this, but I'd rather comment on it. I think I've done enough rewriting. Oh wow. And so I think I'll switch into more of a commenting mode right now and just talk about what I think needs to change here. Again, this paragraph has the same sort of style that the other paragraph above it did with its lack of exciting structure. So I don't recommend redoing the same techniques as above and making those short, snappy paragraphs in between the bigger ones, because if you do that too much, your reader clues into it and they get bored with it. So everything in moderation. What I suggest here, however, is that there needs to be a prime focus in this paragraph, and it's probably the jet flying towards them. That's pretty serious. They then need to move behind the snowbank and take refuge there. Julia and Grimm then need to figure out a plan of what to do, which is the dialogue down here. Watch out in this sentence here. Grimm and Julia remained laying on the snow. Let me check if that's correct. Laying. Remained laying is quite an unusual way to say it. I'd even... Remained laying. We haven't established that they are lying to begin with, or that they're laying. So he narrowly dodges. Should mention here that he flattens himself against... Actually, I'll write over this one. As the jet soars overhead, or soars past them overhead. So Grimm dies, flattens himself against the prone body of Julia. This doesn't imply that she's dead. She's just prone, so she's flattened on the ground. Sorry, I'm mixing up tenses. So Grimm dived. Grimm flattened, or took a dive, flattened himself against the prone body of Julia as the jet soared past them. Sorry if I've been inconsistent with my tenses so far. I'm in present tense mode up here. Felt extinguished by the noise. Scriptures. Off. Off. Third. Dance. Call dance. Grim with a cry. Made a nose sharp then. Grim braced. Fell silent. Good. Yeah, apologies for not being consistent with my tenses there. I think that's one of my weaknesses in both writing and editing. It's just I often assume what tense the story is in. Dove is a... It's correct, isn't it? But it's just... it sounds so funny, doesn't it? At least I think it's grammatically correct. Is it? Yeah, no, no? Oh, it is, yeah. It just sounds very funny though. He dove underneath the waves. He took a dive is a way to get around that? Or dove? That's a comment on my comment. Yeah, thank you, Katerina Hopes. It's... yeah. That's personal preference, I think. So I'll stick it in as a comment and see what PumpkinPieAddict says. I'm gonna suggest getting rid of remained laying. Partly because the assonance is very slow. Usually the assonance is slow, but and that can be a good way to slow down the pace of a piece of writing if you're after that, but remain laying, it doesn't work for the pace of this paragraph here. Grim and Julia remain flat against the snow, masked under the trees, swaying more wild than before with the jet helicopter and weather. Swaying more. Sentence structure implies Grim and Julia are swaying. Instead, we want Grim and Julia remained flat against the snow, comma, masked under the trees, which Grim and Julia, that swayed more. Because in this case here, the trees are swaying more, the trees that swayed more, or the trees, comma, which swayed more. But as it's currently written, it's just a second stack of the subject here. They got to me past Grim and Julia. Grim stood up and grabbed his soul pistol. Have a think about how we can rework this to make it a bit more exciting and a bit more punchy. Right now, I think the biggest criticism I have of it is that the jet comes out of nowhere. Give it time to come in. Give Grim a second to appreciate it, and then chaos can spill over, and that's fine. I think just sort of follow the flow of excitement. I think you take care of the air power, I'll take care of the soldiers. Grim shouted. He ran straight towards the guards, whose backs were still turned towards the two. Would the jet fire alert the guards to where they should be looking? I'm not sure. I'm also going to assume that the jet and the helicopter are on the same side. If they're not, they need to be split a bit more clearly. But if they are, they're probably being comms with each other. So the jet could be radioing into... and the intel could be shared around. Yeah. Irina Hopes asks, how do you train to be an editor? Is it difficult to keep your editor's objective without drawing on your own writing style into it? Yes, as the answer to your second question. Yeah, it is difficult. Objectivity is not something that I think an editor can ever achieve. They will always have their own biases, their own preferences, and their own style of editing. Some editors are very critical, others are a lot more constructive, some focus a lot more on development, and others like to do the line-by-line edits. I think personally, trying to be a mixture of everything helps to keep that sense that you're trying to be as professional and objective as possible. It is hard, but the more you do it, in answer to your first question, the more you do it, the better you get at it. It also helps if you have written a bit as well, or that you've read a lot. The good readers don't necessarily make good editors. Good writers don't necessarily make good editors. Good readers don't necessarily make good writers. The only way that you can improve in each three of those aspects, reading and writing and editing, is doing them. So for instance, if you don't edit, you can't be a good editor. You just have no experience of working through a story or thinking about it critically, how it can be improved. So the best way to become a better editor is to do it. You can either do it with your own writing. A few writers struggle, quite a few writers struggle with editing their own writing. They feel like they lack objectivity, they feel like they're too harsh. You could edit other people's stories for them. Hey, it's what I do. But I guess either way, you just have to figure out what you're comfortable with doing and doing it. I have found in the past that having edited my own stories, having written my own stories and then having gone through them to edit them, I guess I built up a sort of basic understanding of what to look out for. But yeah, that took quite a while though. So start early, start often is, I guess, the best thing to do. Starting with your own writing is probably the best place because it's easier to edit other people's writing, but it's more effective and rewarding for you to learn how to edit your own writing first and foremost. Yeah. Yes, as you say, it's hard for me to edit your own writing because you have to put it away for a long time. And coming back to it with those fresh eyes, I'm just paraphrasing what you're saying here. That's like I once heard it described as hot and cold. So when you finish writing a story, it's hot and you shouldn't edit it. But you put it away for a few weeks or months to let it cool and settle, like a pie on the windowsill, and then you come back and you edit it and you're much more critical and objective. Yeah, that's really good advice. Almost without exception, that's a good thing to do. You can edit when it's a bit more fresh, but the edit will come out a bit differently, and depending on how far along you are in the story after you've written that part, that will be a different factor as well. Yeah, that's a factor people don't consider, I think. It's what comes after the part that you're editing. Have you already written it? What do you intend to write it? Because that will determine how you come back and look at your old writing too, what needs to change, what needs to be put in. Sometimes writing more after the edit, and then coming back to edit the first part, will inform you as to what your first part needs to be. That's actually quite an important thing to keep in mind. Yeah, definitely just in tunes. I've noticed that with my writing. It's made me think a lot about some things that I didn't consider before I started editing. So yeah, good news for me. I get it's a win-win for me. I get to edit, which I love, but I also get to make myself a better writer in the process, or try to at least. So okay, so Grim shouted. He ran straight towards the guards. This is keep in mind, this will block him from understanding any dialogue that happens hereafter. I'm gonna highlight that in purple, this thing here. Mwah. Lovely. Nah. Mwah. Very nice. This section here is, if we're focalized through Grim, he's not even going to hear this. So I don't mind the vocalization going back a little bit into Julia. Done, don't you die, and don't waste any of my bullets, or I brought a couple through you. Julia shouted back, running in the opposite direction, unknowing if Grim heard. It's unclear as to why she's saying this. If oh, she could be saying it to herself. I don't think this is necessary, but I'll comment on it because two things here. The first thing is that this, whoops. Done. Don't you die on me. Don't waste any bullets. So often putting a dialogue bag or back ending this is a really simple suggestion. It's surprisingly effective. There. I don't know if unknowing if Grim heard really matters. Just as a suggestion, if this wasn't here, it wouldn't be any worse. Let's put it that way. It wouldn't be any... Yeah, getting rid of this piece of dialogue here wouldn't take anything crucial away from the story. That's what I meant. The two split apart, with Grim hanging under a trench and along a snowy field curve. Comma, he crouched and walked through it, comma, only looking up to see the sky and the falling sun. Actually, let's do another read through. Cool. Yeah. How many words have I worked through so far? Sorry if it's been a bit slow. Yeah, just under 1,000. Although I've been giving a lot of suggestions, so I think it's okay. Let's do another read of this part here. And I want to see some good reactions and good commentary from the stream chat. Good. The two split apart, with Grim hanging under a trench and along a snowy field curve. He crouched and walked through it, only looking up to see the sky and the falling sun. He heard the chopper zooming around in the snowfall and gunfire being exchanged from Julia, guards, helicopter, or jet. It was impossible to tell. Grim crouched down and turned on his radio. Anyone is from support staff there? Murphy, Commander? Grim asked. No response. Grim turned off his radio and buried his head a little lower, daring not to look at whatever could be above the trench. He heard the pounding of snow by the feet of riflemen. Each step grew closer to Grim. He took a deep breath and drew his pistol. He looked above and put one hand upwards, attempting to climb the trench. At the corner of Grim's eye, he spotted a grenade fall below the left side of his shoulder. He pulled his hand down and leapt to his right and watched a pile of snow erupt from the grenade. The snow scattered everywhere. Grim remained laying on his stomach, hands over his head, feeling the snow on his back, and smelled the foul remnants of the grenade. A reminder he was still alive. Both of Grim's ears rang from the explosion. Hearing had completely lost itself on his left ear. Flush him out, Grim heard one of the guards say faintly through his right ear. He estimated they were maybe seconds away, but he couldn't account for another grenade throw. Grim looked behind him, still laying on his stomach. A soldier stepped near the trench, far away from Grim, looking through the scope of his red-painted assault rifle, equipped with a laser dot, slowly moving up along the trench. Grim didn't realize he was still covering both his ears as he reached to his side for his gun. Using his elbow, he rolled his body from stomach onto his back in the trench, pointing the gun upwards. He eyeballed the soldier, holding his gun steady and directly at the guard at a distance. He eyeballed the soldier, holding his gun steady and directly at the guard at a distance. Grim shot his pistol 3 times in rapid succession, absorbing the recoil with each shot on his elbow. Please, just one. All I need is one to land, Grim said to himself silently, taking his eye from behind the gun, but it still pointed towards the soldier. He waited as seconds passed by, and the soldier finally collapsed. Grim sighed and looked up at the snow as it fell on his face. He shook his head and launched himself forward with his right hand. Grim crouched and walked slowly forward to the fallen soldier. Behind him, another soldier dipped below. Grim spotted the red scarf blowing in the wind the soldier wore and pulled the trigger twice, hoping one of those bullets made their way through the scarf and through the soldier. The scarf whipped violently in the wind, and then fell down with the soldier onto the floor of the trench. Grim sprinted down the trench, going towards the first soldier, occasionally bouncing off the walls. Sound barely returned to his ear, but he continued to smell the lead of the recently fired pistol and the remnants of the grenade still in the air. He reached the end of the trench and climbed up, tripping on his way to the even ground. Grim took off his goggles to get a better view through the storm and spotted 2 more trenches to his left and 2 soldiers looking at him, their laser dots quickly approaching his feet and another close to his left hand. Grim leapt to his side, feeling a bullet graze his arms, losing his goggles. He drew his gun in front of him and rolled into the nearest trench, falling into another cluster of snow. Grim stood up, ignoring the searing pain in his side and loud ringing in his ears, and ran opposite of soldiers along the trench. Behind him, 2 more grenades exploded. Grim collapsed to his knees, grabbing both his ears and closing his eyes. He shook his head and stood up, grabbing his side and pressing down on it. He felt blood spilling out of him, but it eventually stopped after being pressurized. Over here, a soldier shouted. Grim looked up, and a soldier dropped into the trench, with him firing his rifle a couple rounds before Grim was able to sneak under the gun and tackled him. Grim listened to the gunfire continue until the soldier dropped his weapon. Grim punched the soldier and left off grabbing the rifle. He pointed it at the soldier, who raised both his hands to surrender the red dot on the soldier's face. The soldier couldn't have been any older than 19 years old, but he looked stoic, with the same red scarf around his neck. Grim was then tackled from behind. On the floor, Grim realized his attacker had another red scarf and was much bigger than him. Grim threw his elbows, trying to get out of the hold, and instead opted for the fallen rifle as the soldier applied a headlock. Grim felt his heartbeat racing like claps of horses in an open field. He looked up at the sky and reached for the knife on his belt. The soldier he had previously punched got up and ran over, ready to return blows with Grim still fighting the choke. 3 grenades entered the trenches, causing the 2 soldiers to scatter. 1 grenade went off behind Grim, the force causing part of the trench wall to collapse. The 2nd and 3rd grenade exploded behind the new trench wall, leaving Grim unaffected. He heard the screams of soldiers caught in the trench. Grim pushed up, feeling the snow old and new on his face. Next, still feeling the effects of being choked, and his side no longer bleeding but stinging, ears still ringing. Grim sat up and grabbed his knife, strapped to his leg, and stood up, turning around and stabbing the wall with his knife. He used it as leverage and climbed over the newly created trench wall. He didn't spend long examining the damage from the bodies covered in snow, but he did grab a belt of grenades and a rifle from them. I'm going to keep reading a little bit. The grenade blast got about a half-dozen soldiers from Grim's count. Some still alive, gasping for air, others barely moving. The falling snow whisked around Grim and changed directions wherever it felt, with no sense of order. Grim climbed the trench again and got to the surface. He gasped for fresh air, uncontaminated by bodies and shrapnel. It felt like it froze his lungs, but it was a relief from the heat and intense pain below. Grim, on his hands and knees, looked up, rifle at his side. Another 4 soldiers rappelled down from the helicopter, and about a half-dozen more were running towards his direction. Grim pushed himself up, now sitting on his knees, breathing heavily. He spread the belt out in front of him, grabbed 1 grenade, pulling the pin and throwing it in the direction of the soldiers. "He's there!" one shouted out. The grenade exploded in the air, and Grim chucked another one. Oh, all 10 soldiers were no longer standing. Grim hunched over and breathed heavily. Hearing mostly returned to his ears, and as he could hear sounds of the helicopter above zooming around but no gunfire, he watched it zip around throughout the sky before finally hitting the side of the mountain and exploding on impact. Grim fell over and crawled to the 10 soldiers' bodies. He hid behind a box of crates and pushed himself up. He was gasping for air still. "You look like hell," Julia shouted, sliding down the snowy perch. "Looks like you took them most of it now." She continued, her face hiding under her fur hood. "The storm, it's moving too fast. That chopper up there, it lost control and hit the side of the mountain. It'd be stupider than anyone else. We have to go back inside and wait this storm out, regroup until we find something secure to get out of here. No, no way. I know the way out. It's around the corner. Trust me, I can show you the way, Grim said, coughing. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Here. So we just read through about 1,300 words. Okay, I will split this stream up over, I think, about 3 or 4, depending, different streams. So we'll return to this story a couple of times throughout the next couple of weeks. I'll continue on with the stream now. I'll wrap up in about half an hour, I think. We'll give this another chug and see how we go. Just want to have a little look at Discord. Alrighty. Alrighty, so there's a lot that happens in these 1,400 words. Writing action scenes is I think, quite a tricky thing for the stories. Of all the really good action scenes I've ever seen, the one from Children of Men is probably the action scene that stands out as one of the most gripping and engaging things. Maybe... I don't want to say in like the entire history of cinema, that's way too much. But it certainly sticks out as something that, once you see it, you'll never quite look at action the same way again, in terms of how much attention to detail is paid with a fluid sense of how an action sequence can work. But that's in a movie. Movies have the blessing of being able to cut sharply, to drag out their scenes, to slow things down. Writing does have that ability too, of course. However, when it comes to writing an action sequence, what defines good action? Is it a short length? Is it sharp sentences? Is it those types of imagery that's being used? Do you lean more into functional style sentences as what's happening here? Do you go a bit more poetic? Do you slow things down? I know that PumpkinPieAddict was saying that he likes to sort of he took inspiration from the Metal Gear Solid series, and also 007's Skyfall. Good movie, Skyfall. Spectre, not so much. Skyfall, good movie. I'm sorry, I'm just reading the original Destructive Reader's post just to look at how everything's flowing together. It really was Hannibal Grimm. It was a really good movie. Oh, it's a different kind of editing, isn't it? Interesting watching people edit videos. I watched T8 edit some. I think he was working on an AMV. It was interesting just watching how the process works. Ah, Hannibal Grimm's got an answer. It all starts with a screenplay, at least for film. Visually in the reader's mind, as the writer, you need to remember to use the setting and objects around the character to add detail to the scene. I think that's excellent advice. Yeah. That kind of reminds me of Atomic Blonde. Not a fantastic movie, but the action scenes in it were very, very good. A similar style of long, choreographed, and very effective action scenes. Hmm. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that there was. This was Hannibal, Katerina. Sorry, yes. Katerina Hope's point here is spot on, I think. And Hannibal Grimm makes the comment about how you can edit together, in a film sense, how those elements work. I think with stories, that is maybe underutilized. What's happening here is a real. It's one of those long action sequences where the flow of everything bleeds into each other. Something happens, then this happens, then this happens. Now the character's over here. Now the character's over there. Now they're doing this. Now that's happening. Um, there are a couple of moments where it breaks believability, and we can find those easily with this word, sneak. Sneaky sneak. Grimm looked up, and a soldier dropped into the trench with him firing his rifle a couple rounds, so a couple of rounds, before Grimm was able to sneak under the gun and tackled him. This is quite a... I don't see how this could happen. If a soldier's coming down into the trench, aims the gun at Grimm, Grimm's here, fire, 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 but he misses so much that, like, Grimm is right before... The only way this would happen is if the soldier came down and he had locked his arms in a position, but he sort of staggers or something, and he's trying to find his footing, and he blindly fires off a few rounds, but Grimm ducks low. The soldier's got his arms locked and doesn't think to angle down or something, and then Grimm comes up and tackles him. But that's a whole nother, like, 2 sentences worth of justification for what is basically... Soldier comes in, Grimm tackles him. So this here in its current form doesn't work. Making it longer I wouldn't advise for because it's already quite long. Making it shorter is probably a better option too. Perhaps the other thing that I think needs work on here is just let's do this again. If I was performing like a real line edit, I'm not sure how I'd start, to be honest. I probably just need to highlight it all and break it down into its segments, which I'll probably do in this stream. That's good. A little blue here. I'm gonna highlight that blue because it's unusual. That's quite nice. This is halfway between blue and yellow, so I'm gonna call that. I'm gonna call that yellow. I'm gonna spend a minute doing this. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Using his elbow is blue. That's good. I think this is important to note what I'm doing. One of the things that a long action sequence can suffer from is the repetition of, as we were detailing before, pronouns or objects beginning the sentences. This is probably blue because it's a little unusual, whereas with scarf, arguably this shouldn't be a new paragraph, in which case it becomes blue, and then the paragraph becomes longer. Here, you get what I'm doing. I'll stop at the end of this page. Okay. Good. Hannibal Grimm, don't beat yourself up. Edit it, make it movie magic. Just edit all the problems away. Doesn't matter if like your original footage isn't up to scratch, just sprinkle in some editing magic. I think he's a stormtrooper. Yeah, actually, yeah, almost, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's actually a perfect description for what happens. Moment here. This scene doesn't feel right. It's the... Either he has shocking aim or doesn't have time to aim properly as he lands in the trench. That's not really the main problem here. It's the yellow. I'll tie this in with what I'm about to do now, which is going through and making a list of things that happen in the action scene, which I will do on a new document. Yeah. So cool. You won't see what I'm typing now, but I'll paste it in a bit later. I'm doing this just to keep it a little clean for now. So here we go. This is where the action sort of starts, where they split up and like, "Don't you die on me." Characters go apart. The action scene begins. Before it was just a little taste. It was a precursor. Now we've got this very long action scene. What we're going to do is we're going to make a note of what happens in this action scene, and then I will show you how the structure works. So the two split apart with Grim going into a trench. So Grim enters trench. Tries to radio in. Stepped into his pistol, grenade. Okay, so soldier approaches, grenade lands, Grim loses hearing. Near a trench far away from Grim, looking through a scope of his robe. The soldier hops down into trench. Grim shoots him. This is I'll comment on this scene now. Using his elbow, he rolled his body from stomach onto his back in the trench, pointing the gun upwards. He eyeballed the soldier, holding his gun steady and directly at the guard at a distance. This doesn't make sense grammatically. I'm not sure who's doing what and where. So, what's going on here? He eyeballed the soldier who was holding his gun steady. And Grim... Oops. Just... Oh, he took a deep breath and shot his... Yep, that makes sense now. This is quite a funny sequence here. Grim says something out loud. Oh, Grim says to himself silently. Grim says something in his head. It's a bit of an unusual image. Soldier appears, Grim aims weapon, Grim fires, Grim says something in his head, waits, soldier collapses. This here doesn't gel for me. From this down to here. It slows the scene down and creates... I need a specific example of what I'm going to refer to here. Maybe you guys can help me out. In shonen anime, there's that lame trope where two boys with swords do that thing, and then they're opposite each other, and then the camera's like, it's here, it's looking at this character, it's here, looking at that character, and one of them collapses. Oh, you've bested me, thank you very much. It's that, oh, I hate it. But that's sort of what happens here. It's the, something happens, there's a still reaction, and then kind of reaction. That is, it works in anime because anime can be lame like that. But I don't recommend applying a similar style of structure in other types of media. I'm not saying that this is like an anime style thing, it's reminding me of that break in biology and physics and human reaction. I can't think of what to type into YouTube to show this, but if you have a moment in your favorite animes where that happens, please tell me. I'll find a video of it and link it to me, and I'll put it in as a comment here, because it doesn't work in a narrative sense, unfortunately. You Grim should be having the thought before he shoots. Yep, that's one solution to DLACC. It's a good one too. Yeah, I agree. So, with TTLACC's suggestion here, it says, you know, increases an anime style. One of my viewers suggested putting the internal so then you have Grim aims weapons, says something in his head, fires, soldier collapses immediately. No waiting. Good. Top 10 most dramatic deaths in anime. Top 10 overpowered anime bosses. That's all I have to say about this one specifically. Let's go back to the grand structure. Grim's side looks up. So Grim okay, scuffled violently. Sound bellowed into his ear. He reached the end of a trench and climbed up. Tripping on his way to the even ground, Grim took off his goggles to get a better view. Spots two more trenches to his left and two soldiers looking at him. He lays the dots quickly. So Grim is out of the trenches and spies two other soldiers who train their rifles on him. Leaps to the side, losing his goals, droid his gun in front of him, rolls into the nearest trench into a cluster of snow. Grim evades. Evades them. But he's being hit. Grim claps to his knees, grabbing both his ears. Grim claps to his knees, grabbing both his ears and closing his eyes. He shook his head and he stood up, he felt blood spilling out of him, but he pressurized it. Over here, a soldier pops down into the trench. Grim tackles him. Wrists weapon away. Hesitates. Another soldier tackles Grim. Headlocks him. Now how does he escape from the headlock? 3 grenades enter the trenches. Error grenades save the day, causing headlock boy to scatter. One grenade went off behind Grim, collapsing the wall. Second and third exploded behind the new trench wall, leaving Grim unaffected. Okay. You hear the screams of the soldiers caught in the trench. Grim pushed up, feeling the snow. Old and new. Neck is sore. He uses his leverage to trench wall. But he did grab a belt of grenades, that's right. Grim rises from trench, gathers supplies from the corpses, right? Choked on it. Grim sits up and grabs a knife and stood up, turning to use his leverage. He didn't spend long examining damage from the bodies. Yep. Gav spies on the corpses. The grenade blast got half a dozen soldiers from Grim's count, some still alive, gasping for air, others barely moving. The falling snow whisked around Grim. He gasps for fresh air. Air freezes on his lungs. A moment's pause. Then 10 boys. One grenade fixes this. Okay, let's take a look at one thing here. This. Details like this are good to mention so the reader is able to fix a solid image. This is the black bag effect of my regulars, but hey, howdy Safari. Good to see you. It's good. Editing goes good. We're editing Grim Chronicles, Dead Man's Switch by PumpkinPieAddict. And as you can see, this is chapter 20. I haven't edited 19 chapters since you've been here last time. No, it's just this is the excerpt where that we're working with. And it's good to just plonk yourself in the middle of a story and try and see if you can make your way through the narrative flow. So it's been really fun. I've enjoyed this. It's been a challenge too because we've just gone through a pretty dense action scene. Let me show you what I was doing just then and show everyone else too. What I was working on and typing away, and you probably weren't able to look at what I was doing, is this. This is what just happened. Grim enters the trenches, tries to radio in. Soldier approaches, grenade lands, Grim loses hearing. Soldier hops down into trench, Grim shoots him. Grim walks on, another soldier appears behind him. Grim shoots him. Grim moves out of the trenches and spies two other soldiers who train their rifles on him. Grim evades them, but he's been hit. Soldier pops down into trench, Grim tackles him, wrests the weapon away, hesitates. This is the 19-year-old. Another soldier tackles him, headlocks him. Errant grenades save the day, causing the headlock boy to scatter. Grim rises from the trenches, gathers supplies from the corpses. Of friendly fire. I think it's friendly fire. A moment's pause. Then 10 boys come. One grenade fixes that. Helicopter crashes. We don't know why until we get to the dialogue. Grim crawls to boxes by 10 corpses. Julia appears. So, there's a lot going on here. Oh, excuse me. I think this is important to write out like this. I'm gonna get rid of boy. It sounds like I'm being sarcastic. And I'm not, I just wanted to use the word boy. Boys equals minions. Yeah, exactly right. Boy minions. That's what I was going for. It just sounds like I'm being too flippant, so I thought to myself, oh, I better just turn it into guards. Oh, did I not? Thank you. I didn't spell enter properly. This is my summation of the total scene. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 things happen over the course of 1,300 words. It's frenetic. It's so much is happening, and you only give yourself 100 words. So, oh wait, how many things did I? 14? 14 things happen in 1,400 words. Good. So now that I've got that, okay. So here's this is the scene breakdown of what's just happened. We've got 14 things that happen. I think it is 1,400 words. Let me do some quick math. Oh, 1,300 words. This is really where the action scene takes place. But just like a little note. 14 things happen in 1,300 words. So that leaves you with only under. Oh, is my stream down? No. Stream is fine. Hang on a second. Hang on. Were you testing just so that you could That's a minion, isn't it? I'm not happy at all. Not happy at all. Okay. So I'll make a comment about all of this. I'm tilted, TTLACC, I'm very tilted. So it leaves you with under 100 words for each micro scene. The general flavor of these types of... No, what am I trying to say? If you want to go for a frenetic lots of things are happening, and I don't know if it's effective, to be honest. Usually with these types of scenes, you focus more on one or two events. A grenade coming in and knocking out your senses is pretty devastating. So the fact that he manages to crawl over and push himself upright, using his elbow, and he rolls over and fires a gun at someone, that's impressive in and of itself too. The total effect of what this scene's going for is like a Metal Gear Solid style action sequence where the protagonist has extraordinary elasticity in their ability to take hits and move around and not be flustered. If your character is a god kind of character, and I think there's room for escapist action scenes like that. It really depends on... So everything here depends on the general flavour of the story. Right now, it's an escapist action sequence. It doesn't hold down much semblance of reality. And that's totally fine if it fits the bill for your story. A slightly more nuanced and emotionally effective, engaging, however, can be made with cuts. Instead of having the backups arrive, limit the amount of bad boys to a handful. 4 at most, maybe. Each takedown then becomes more pertinent, more focused. You can also spend more time getting the reader into the head of Grim. Instead of the fast-paced info dump style that currently exists. I'll take who suggested what I'm thinking of? I think it may have been Katerina. Katerina says, I think a good action scene has to play out visually in the reader's mind. As a writer, you need to remember and use the setting and objects around the characters a detail to the scene. Halfway there, you're using trenches. But since we're consider maybe like if Grim can oh, I think I've hit the character limit. Okay, that's comment 1. I've never hit the character limit on a comment. It's 2. But right now, the reader will tend to glide over lots of the details and arrive at the conclusion without having had to invest much of their own emotions. It doesn't feel like Grim, despite the crazy odds, despite getting hit ever felt much at risk. The exception is when you do make him vulnerable. The best scene where that happens is this scene, actually. The please just one, all I need is for it to land. In fact, if you extended this scene out, made Grimm what I'm suggesting here is that if you extend that scene above with where Grimm rolls himself over, his ears are ringing, everything's going wrong, but he manages to steady his gun, line it up, breathe, think to himself, I just need one, take a shot, the guy goes down, end. He falls out of a trench, and I mean there are other guards there, sure, but like maybe Julia can take care of them. You just need the Metal Gear Solid style escapism can be used to good effect if you'd rather go for that. In that case, really focus on structuring your sentences so that they don't sound the same. Grime does this. Grimes, sorry. Grimm does this, Grimm does that. Grimm hits someone. Think about which style of action sequence you prefer. I'm still here, Hannibal Grimm. I see you've got a cardboard box. I'm very jealous. Wish I had a cardboard box. That is, I think... Yeah, I'll make a voice note here. Well, I mean, I'm always making voice notes, but I'll just talk about this. Keep your mind focused on all the yellow, because if you don't want to take my suggestion about condensing this whole action sequence into a short, sharp, well, not a short, sharp, but like an effective, emotionally effective single scene, and you want to do that, this happens, this happens, this happens, fine, but then you need to think of how it's written in terms of the repeating yellow elements. I know that you said in your original post that grammar isn't the thing, I mean, grammar is the thing I'm least concerned by, but I'd like to get better at it. And it's not so much the grammar here that needs fixing. Like, there are points here where, like, the grammar is lacking some commas, some sentences have too many parts to them. That's fine. In terms of what I was trying to go for here with my edit, I didn't focus so much on line editing at this second part here. I wanted to get a sense of how the action sequence was working. That being said, the structure of this story, in terms of how, grammatically speaking, your sentences stack up together, that's often something that I think people don't think of when they think, oh, grammar, I'll fix it up later. Don't treat your writing like that, because if you do, you fall into the yellow trap. If every sentence is just functional, if every sentence is, it's okay, but I'll get the point across, that's not the point of writing. Writing isn't just like you're writing a synopsis. And that's what I felt like when I was reading this enormous action sequence here. The reason why you have to worry about your grammar is because if you don't, it reads like a synopsis. It reads like a synopsis. I know you said you didn't want to focus so much on grammar, but the flow-on effect of that is this. The structure of a story starts to read like it's just a series of facts. It's a weird connection between grammar and structure. The flow-on effect is this. The structure of a story starts to read like it's just a series of facts when all the sentences are grammatically similar. And I hope that criticism isn't too harsh. I think this action scene here, first of all, you need to decide, PumpkinPieAddict, what kind of focus you want for it. Do you want it to be sprawling and crazy and lots of stuff happening? Fine. Focus on making your paragraphs less about this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, Grim does this, Grim does this, Grim does this, and more about the flow of the ideas, those 14 ideas that you have. However, if you didn't want to go for that effect, and you wanted, I wanted people to really empathize with Grim, for Grim to be faced with a really challenging situation, my suggestion, pick one thing here, probably this one with this structure here. Make this the focus of the action sequence. Grim rolls out of a trench after having killed someone, after having fought for his life. His ears are ringing, the snow's flying everywhere. And then the helicopter comes in and crashes. You don't need to carry forward that same Rambo-style action sequence for it to be impressive. Unless that's what the story is about and it's focusing on the Rambo style. So you've got to... And I don't know, because it's chapter 20 and I haven't read the 19 chapters previous. But I think that's up for you to decide. And either way, you can make it work. for your cardboard box. Good. Alrighty, I am... Let me check something first, before I do something. Nice. You know what happened recently? I got myself 100 subscribers. Yay, 100 subscribers! Wait for it. Yeah, confetti. Blah. 100 subscribers. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. It's been 9 months since I first started editing on Lyrebird Edits. And yeah, 100 subscribers. That's pretty cool, isn't it? It's actually up to 104 now. I picked up 4 today. That's crazy. So thank you for everyone who's subscribed and who's been there with me as we've gone from 0 to 100. Yeah, and I guess here's to another 100. In addition to the 104 that I've already got. But yeah, no, really, thank you so much for what you guys contribute to this stream, which is a really positive environment where people can come in and there's no crazy competition or judgment and people have good suggestions. It's really chill. You know, if we didn't have that, then Lyrebird Edits wouldn't be what it is. And I'm really grateful to you guys for that. Yeah. Ah, I love you all. But really, no, it's lovely. I really enjoy what I do because of what you make Lyrebird Edits as well. Fictitious 1267, good point for you to join us. Hello. Thank you for watching this stream. Thank you for lurking. I don't mind people lurking at all. I think it's nice just to have people come in and at their own pace they can do what it is that they want to do and treat it like a bit of a background thing. But yeah, thank you for saying hi. Where people can come to meme. I'm not averse to the casual memery. If you want some like concentrated memery, actually, I think we can up the memery in Lyrebird's Nest. But please feel free to jump over on the Discord. The link is in the front in the dashboard. Click on it, and you'll be able to just post the crispest memes, only the finest. And also, like, we just talk behind the scenes stuff about writing questions, editing questions, anything you want to talk about. Cool. Used to be able to get these to roll out without making them, like, make a noise, but I don't know, maybe they make them better now. Oh, and I also bought some bubbles too, hang on. There. I remembered last night, like, I've been thinking of doing this since like Thursday, and I remembered last night that I didn't go out to buy any party supplies. So, like, quarter to 9, I ran to the local supermarket. Just got there in time. It was worth it. And now my keyboard is messy. It was worth it. So yeah. So yeah. I think I said that twice, didn't I? So yeah. Thank you for joining me on this stream. We'll continue working on this story. What day is it today? It's Sunday. So Thursday. Thursday 9 PM my time, I'll be streaming. And I'll be streaming again next Sunday, this time from 9 to 12. And we'll be working on PumpkinPieAddicts, Dead Man's Switch. Just before I go, if you want to read the story for yourself, here. Sticky keyboard camera. Don't read too much into that, TTLACC. Don't you read too much into that. But yeah, thank you, PumpkinPieAddict, for letting me edit your story. And hope you found the criticisms and suggestions useful. As always, everything I'm doing is just suggestion. So if you think that there are things that weren't so helpful, feel free to ignore. I'm just here to suggest. Oh, it didn't work so good. 2. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up stream. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for everyone who followed today. That was a huge number of people who came along. Yeah, hope you like what you see, and we'll see you back for more next time. Oh yeah, I gotta, share this with PumpkinPieAddict. Alrighty, we will see you guys on Thursday. Bye! Thanks again for 100 subscribers. Bye.